what sort of houses have we lived in and how many? Well, I counted them up 16 for me, and some of those more than once. So we moved a number of times. We've always liked places with a lot of character, and we found that in, for instance, England, in Rawton, when we had a 250-year-old thatched roof cottage with the oak beams, and that was beautiful. And we had an early Australian in Kent Lynn, which used to be a tiny little lane outside of Campbelltown, but it's now suburban. And the same we had in, where were we? Murrumburra. Again, early Australian. And a beehive water reservoir in the back of that place. It was amazing. The one we liked living in and lived in for the longest was at Eglinton, which was then a little bit separate to Bathurst. But that was lovely because we had a couple of acres and we had animals, and the kids really loved it then. The places are beautiful, and increasingly we've gone not just on the feel of them as well as practicality, but covered with a lot of prayer. And God has, in a couple of cases, quite miraculously opened up the way and made the path for us to have the house He wanted us in. But we've always had a house, and it's always been good. Thanks.
So my houses that I've lived in, I have lived in about 12 houses over my life. Some of these have been houses of my choosing, probably about half. The other half my parents chose for me, so I've moved quite a bit throughout my life. I've lived in 3 different states, so that's something else with the 12 different houses. I've been in Tasmania, Victoria and New South Wales. Currently living in Sydney. My favourite, I think what stands out for me in terms of houses and places that I live, it's what surrounds the house. So the favourite place that I've ever lived would have to be of my parents' choosing, actually, not my own. So it was the family farm, and we lived on this beautiful little part of the farm, and our backdrop was green rolling hills, and there was a beautiful creek that ran past our house, and there were a bunch of trees, and there were lots of grass to play in. It was the perfect playground to play in as a kid. We didn't need equipment, we had nature all around us. And actually, I would still live there if I could. It was absolutely gorgeous, and you could go for walks and go fishing in the creek. And if you went up on top of the hills, you'd be able to see the sunrise and the sunset. It's just absolutely spectacular. It's a great reminder of God's creation and God's blessings to us. So that's my favorite place and why.